Hello and welcome to another video or episode, depending on whether you're watching this on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast player. So today I thought we'd do something a little different and take a look at what I call the ancestral lens. And the basic broad brush stroke of this is it's a sort of a way of looking critically at what we do and why we do it. And in broad brush strokes, it is we are still on the inside, despite all of our technological advances, despite everything, still hunter-gatherers. We evolved, and up until really the dawn of agriculture, our bodies evolved to fit a certain type of life. And even though what we have now is very different, our biology is still pretty much the same. Though there is a small argument that we are now the domesticated version of Homo sapiens. So, in essence, this is the way to look at something. So the one that really stands out for me is when I went to the dentist. I had some problems with my teeth and everything else, and in the conversations there basically said I needed to come in and have my teeth scaled every 3 months. And I'm kind of going, well, what can I do to prevent that being necessary? And basically the gist of what he said was, no, that's just a part of life. You just have to pretty much put up with it. It just happens. And I go, well, wait a second. Electricity wasn't a proper thing more than 100 years ago. Definitely the scaling devices weren't in frequent use like 80 years ago. So for most of humanity's existence, we have coped fine without this. I mean, admittedly, there have been more dental problems at some point, but if you go back and you look at the dentition of hunter-gatherers, you can see that actually, wow, it was pretty healthy. So, therefore, teeth scaling can't be an integral part of human existence. It may be an adaptation to modern life, where we consume a lot more carbs and a lot more refined carbs than we ever have done in human history. So it's an adaptation. So looking at it with the ancestral lens, we go, yep, teeth scaling isn't quote-unquote natural. And we can apply this to a lot of different areas of life. And we can basically put together a roadmap for what it means to be human, and it helps us understand it. This is something that's quite common in circles of biohacking. We're essentially with biohacking is you're changing your environment to better suit your body. And a key element of that is working with the processes that we have. So what is our body good at digesting and using for fuel? What is our mind good at dealing with or bad at dealing with? What makes us healthy and happy? These are things that fundamentally haven't changed very much. We still have that prehistoric part of our mind. We still have basically a pretty similar brain structure. So we know from studies of things like fractals and that being out in nature is better for our minds. It just clicks better. The signals we're receiving from the natural world around us is being absorbed very readily by our eyes and by our brain and made sense very easily. Whereas a chaotic city or man-made environment, the signals are much harder for our mind to digest. So we can apply the ancestral lens and go, okay, to be a happy, healthy human, you probably need to spend some time outside. And we all get this. This is part of the reason why we're often doing the jobs we're doing in forest school and bushcraft and outdoor learning. It's because we recognize value. Just as we recognize that foraging is a great way to get very healthy ingredients and it's good for our biology. It's something that innately functions well with our physiology. So whenever we are looking at something critically, we can go back and ask again, does this make sense right now? Would it have been something that our ancestors did 15,000 years ago or whatever? Is it a necessary adaptation to modern life? So let's take the education system. That is very much more relevant to us. Now, if we compare the education system to the way we see hunter-gatherer cultures learn, they are poles apart. We see very much more experiential learning, a lighter touch, very little academic learning within a hunter-gatherer society. Because it's not necessary. As long as you can speak the same language as the tribe, name the things that you need to name to get your point across, and be able to provide something of value to the community, hunting, fishing, gathering, making baskets, making knives, something like that, you're pretty much okay. There's no need to earn a living in the same way as we do in modern life. But even though we recognize that that's a better way to learn, there are still things we need to learn to get by in modern life. If you want to become a doctor, chances are you're not going to be able to learn that experientially. You're not just going to be able to go in with the equivalent of a primary school child's knowledge and just go, okay, let me practice on you. You cut here, right? That wouldn't be accepted. So there are some modifications that are needed. But it's not always necessary. So again, it's the way of looking with a critical eye at things. From food to how we teach and learn, it always gives us helpful ways to look at something. It's like I often say, you want to begin with the end in mind. If you are doing something in your practice, it's really important to understand why you're doing it. Not just because everyone else does it, but because there is a purpose. And you've got to work out whether what you're doing is more or less harmful. That is an important part of it. And of course, the other element in all of this is the bit that I described earlier. Happy human life. How do we make happier humans? And a lot of that is going to be going back, remembering older and better ways of doing things, where communities were much more interdependent and we had better, cleaner food that was sourced locally. We can look at frequent exercise and time in the outdoors. We can say, okay, these types of foods would have been available, these types of food wouldn't. I mean, one of my personal rubrics for working out what I would generally want to eat is, can I essentially pick it up from the landscape and with very minimal processing, i.e. just cooking, consume it? That's a pretty good indication that the food is good. So fish, that works. Rowan berries, if you really have to, but it fits the bill. Hunting a deer, yep, totally, that's fine. Making oil out of wheat, no, that's slightly more complex. So, and that's backed up by the research. It's not going to be as good for you. So applying that essential lens just gives you that chance to have a step back and go, wait a second, the things I've been told don't make sense if I apply this measure. If you're telling me that you can survive on an entirely, say, vegetarian diet in Northern Europe, I'd say, well, you can't do that without agriculture. Because if anyone's ever tried to make it work, and there are quite a few books out there, people who have, it's not really possible this far north, because what will you end up eating? There's certain seasons where you might get a few greens, but you're going to be calorie deficient for a lot of it. So this is just really an encouragement to look at things critically, to analyze whether something makes sense in your sessions, whether it's something you want to fit into your life or not, and work out what benefits your body and mind the most, and what benefits the body and mind of the people you're working with the most. Well, I hope that's been helpful for you. I think I'm going to head out of the woodlands before I get taken out by an acorn. So with that, I'll say thank you so much for watching and listening. Remember to make the most of every day, and I'll catch you all next time.